Something happened this summer that I wasn't exactly expecting, and it had a major impact on how I view music in the world, and I just wanted to share it with you. As a side note, I'm gonna quote every single YouTuber who has a developing channel and say, I'm trying out a new microphone on today's video, so let me know in the comments if you like it. For a little over a year, I've been planning on going to Europe for a couple of weeks, and that trip happened. We went to 5 different countries over a period of about 15 days. And in the course of that trip, we played a concert performance in every country. So we had a travel day, tourist day, performance day. And it changed my brain and changed my thinking in some ways that I wasn't totally prepared for. So what I really want to talk about right now is a way that you can improve as a musician that has nothing to do with practice or your gear. The best way to become better at any craft, whether it's music or being a lawyer or doctor or a teacher or whatever it is to just simply become a better human. And what I experienced this summer was a way to become a better human that you can only get through the experience of traveling. And before we dive in, I just want to say that I don't think you have to go to Europe for 15 days. I don't think you have to leave your home country, maybe not even your home city, but just have new experiences, meet new people, eat different food, be in a different place for a while with a way to just kind of take it in. So the first thing that I noticed was just my perspective changed. I'm from the Western United States, and really our recorded history is fairly short in global terms. It's 2025 right now, and the first pioneer settlers in my area came in the 1850s. So at a maximum, we have about 170 years of history in this area. When you go to Europe, 170 years is like it happened last week. That's the new part of town if it's less than 200 years old. So the interesting thing is, I noticed myself growing from performance to performance, even though there were a few days in between and no practice time. I mean, really no interface with the other musicians in a musical way at all. But we experienced new sights, new people, new food, new languages even. And when we got to that next performance, somehow it was more passionate, it was more deliberate, it was more emotional. It was really a powerful thing to watch. And I think one of the things that contributed to that is just listening. As I was walking around in that new city, and again, for part of the time we were in London, so English was the common language, but different dialects, different accents, different ways of saying things. I really had to open up my ears and listen to just understand what was going on, to follow the conversation, to follow the plot, as it were. And then when we got to other countries where the language wasn't what I was used to hearing, French, German, I really had to hunker down and listen carefully, because even if they were speaking English, it was not the kind of English that I was used to hearing. And then when I spoke, I had to speak a little more slowly than I normally speak and be a little bit clearer. And I found myself choosing words that were not deep vocabulary words. I just wanted to be as clear with my communication as possible. And so I really think when we got to performing, those listening and communicating skills just popped out in the music, and it made it better without even trying. Another thing I want to speak to is just starting to see the world from a different perspective. And again, where I live, the majority of the people are from a really similar background. And the majority of the people were born here or raised here or lived here for a really long time. And so there's a lot we already share in common. We know where things are in town. We know what the problems are, what the weather's going to be like, the local politics, things like that. And when you get to another place that you've never been before, thousands of miles away from home, those things don't exist. And you start to realize that the person you're talking to, or the person that you're walking with, or even that you're watching, has had a completely different life experience than you have. And whatever their version of normal is completely foreign to you. And if they could see my life, your life, it would be completely foreign to them. And so in the moment, and there were moments where it was maybe a simple transaction in a store, or asking for directions, or because I'm crazy, I was being a wild American and trying to have conversations with people when it felt appropriate. But just realizing that their life experience, and even the way they were experiencing that moment that we were in together, was going to be very different from me. And so it was humbling, but also just eye-opening. I mean, rather than making assumptions about what they were thinking or even what they knew, I was a lot more self-aware about what I was communicating, not only with my words, but with how I was standing, how I was looking. You know, was I observing an appropriate personal bubble? Was I going somewhere in the store that was appropriate? It really made me a lot more conscious of the impact I was having on the people around me. And again, not only the people in that country, but other tourists. You know, a lot of the areas we were in were super tourist heavy. And so I was just conscious of, you know, what's my impact around me? And again, when we got to the performance stage, I feel like that self-awareness was just taken up a notch. And so musically, the communication level was just way higher. There was zero chance of going on autopilot in any way. Another thing I would say really struck home to me on this tour was I just had an overwhelming sense of gratitude. And, you know, Europe is kind of this mystical place. Again, me, Western United States. Europe is just so far away, but you see it in movies or you read about it in books, or maybe somebody in your neighborhood had an opportunity to go there. And for me, in my head, it was always like, man, someday I'm going to go there. And so when we finally got there, the first city we were in was London, and we were there for 3 days. And I was physically emotional most of the time. I had a visceral reaction to seeing Windsor Castle, Kensington Palace, Buckingham. I mean, I'm probably saying these things wrong, but just, it was so just overwhelming almost to me. And when we played our first performance and I sat down at the drum kit and I started laying down a groove, the thought went through my head, like, I'm playing drums in London. And then the same thing, a few days later, we played in Paris. I'm like, man, I'm playing drums in Paris. And then Switzerland, and then Germany, and then Austria. It was so amazing to me to be there. And so again, just the feeling of gratitude and knowing that I was among just an incredibly small percentage of people who ever get to do that from the United States. And as I thought about that more, especially since I've been home, we've been home exactly 2 weeks today as I'm making this video, I've thought, you know, it doesn't matter where you get to play music. It's an incredibly small percentage of the population that gets to play music. You know, even if there's a ton of musicians in your area, compared to the rest of the population, it is a privilege to make music. It's even a better privilege to make music with other people, you know, and it really got driven home to me, how cool it is to be a musician and to be in this space. And so back, you know, in my hometown, the band that I play with, we've got a bunch of shows to end the summer. And so it took me a minute to get my headspace back, but as we're, you know, texting back and forth and emailing back and forth and sending out the tech rider and all those things, that spirit of gratitude has stayed with me. And even some of the things that I might have considered annoying, like the tech rider, that's something it's not my favorite thing in the world to deal with, but I just have this gratitude. I get to play music with these awesome humans, and the city where I live is actually incredibly beautiful. It is a tourist destination as well. So that gratitude, and I know I'm talking too much about it, but that's one of the things that really got kind of embedded in my heart while we were in Europe. And if there's one more thing I would say, it is that I met a lot of people with whom communication was difficult. As an example, when we were in Salzburg, Austria, I ended up needing to take an Uber across town. And just randomly how it worked out is I went somewhere and came back, and I had the same Uber driver both ways. And this guy he spoke zero English, and I spoke just a tiny little bit of German. So me and my German and, you know, Google Translate on my phone, we got through the situation. But he was born and raised in Salzburg, but his parents were immigrants from another country, sort of in the south middle of Asia. And it was amazing to talk with him, you know, just again in my limited German, and he and I trying to communicate with one another. But we got it done. You know, we were able to communicate. I got where I needed to go, got my job done, got back to where the rest of our group was, and he was super kind. And at the end, he complimented my German, and he said, "You just need to, you know, keep learning the vocabulary." And so we had a lot of interactions with people, you know, hotels, train, Uber, airplane, buses, gas stations, all those things. And some of the conversations were difficult. Some of them were a little easier. And honestly, it just depended on how much English that person had or how adept I was at using Google Translate. But just beautiful people all over the place. People I would love to just bring home and have them move next door to me so we could hang out and talk. They were awesome. When we performed, there was no language barrier. It did not matter what language those people spoke. It didn't matter that we didn't speak the same language, because the music, I know it sounds so cheesy, but the music became our common language, and there was emotion, there was response, there was love. It was just such a powerful experience to me to realize, again, music was a leveling force. It was a connection between people who really didn't have much else in common except that we're all humans. So I kind of want to end with what I started with, which is, I don't think you need to go to Europe. I don't think you need to go far from home or go on an extended trip to have the benefits of just having your perspective widened. But I do think the best thing to work on when you are working on improving your craft of music is just yourself and becoming a better human, whatever that means to you. But I know that for me, connecting with people who are different from me, who have a different perspective, a different culture, a different background, was extremely powerful. And I will maintain until the day that I die that it made me a better musician to go outside my comfort zone and just interface with something new, something different. It made me deeper in my soul and more sensitive and communicative as a musician. And it was a really, really super gratifying and rewarding experience. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it does for me going forward as I'm back in my home turf playing with the band that I always play with. Should be a lot of fun. Do me a favor. If you enjoyed this video at all, click like. And if you're not already subscribed, I would always appreciate the subscription. But leave me a comment. Let me know, where's the coolest place you've traveled? Or maybe where's somewhere you'd really like to go? Or is there somebody that you know that's from somewhere else that's had an impact on your life? Let me know what you think. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.